Hi, my name is Scott Camp-Schaefer and I'm a clinical social worker in Austin, Texas. And today I am doing a special movie review video as well as a teaching piece on dealing with depression. And the movie I'm reviewing is It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, the movie about Mr. Rogers that was recently in the theaters. And one of the things that I thought that this movie really spoke to was people who are dealing with depression. Because if anybody needs some good, tender, loving care and support and encouragement, like Mr. Rogers used to give to kids and inspired millions through his TV show, it's somebody who's dealing with depression. Because they are the ones who tend to suffer as much or more than perhaps anyone else, any other type of mental illness, because of all the grief and the anger and the hopelessness and the feelings of worthlessness and guilt and shame, not to mention a few others that can go with this terrible form of mental illness. When I was watching the movie, 5 things jumped out at me as far as things that Mr. Rogers taught that could help people in dealing with depression. And one of those is that there's always one effective way to cope with anger. He liked to bang on the piano, but he also talked about other ways that people can use, especially children growing up, need to learn to cope with anger. Because unless anger is expressed outwardly, it can get turned inward in the form of depression. In fact, depression has often been called anger turned inwards. So that's one key thing I learned from the movie. The second key thing that I learned was to get regular exercise. One of the things Mr. Rogers did every day of his life, certainly as an adult, was to go swim laps in a pool. And he made it a point wherever he traveled, he had to have access to a pool so he could go swimming and get his regular exercise, which he loved and enjoyed. And exercise, minute for minute, has been proven to be one of the most effective things you can do to help overcome depression. Another key thing that jumped out at me from the movie was how important relationships are. He made relationship with the main character, which he wasn't actually the main character in the movie, it was the writer for Esquire magazine who was interviewing him. He really focused on fostering a relationship with this writer who he didn't know from Adam. And with the writer's family, it developed a sense of caring about them. And one of the main things that's important for people with depression to be able to get past is this inward focus on themselves. And it's oftentimes these relationships with friends and family that could become the first warning signs of depression. In other words, if I reach out to somebody and I tell them how I'm feeling, they'll be inclined to recognize what's going on with me as far as depression is concerned, even when I don't see it in myself. And so it's really tremendously important to get the most out of the relationships you have if you are somebody who is suffering with depression or prone to depression, because those are the very relationships that can be the lifeline for the help that you need to get out of depression. In fact, Mr. Rogers learned and demonstrated the key symbol that for American Sign Language that goes with friendship, and demonstrated it often to the people that he encountered and was close to. The fourth thing that I learned from Mr. Rogers that helps in dealing with depression is that it's important to develop positive feelings of self-worth. One of the things that he imbued in the children, the millions of children that watched his show, was this sense that you're okay just the way you are. And if nothing else was taken from watching this movie, and just from my experiences as a child growing up myself with Mr. Rogers, was that it's important to really focus on feeling worthwhile yourself as you are. Some of his detractors really took issue with this, but the main thing is unless we develop a positive sense of self-worth, we may not feel that we're worth getting better. It's not worth it because we're worthless human beings. So this is an important starting point in anybody getting out of depression, is realizing that their worth it's worth it for them to get better, and they're worth saving, and they're worth recovering from depression. And the last thing, no, not the least, but the last thing that I took away from Mr. Rogers as far as help in dealing with depression is to focus on gratitude. Identify things that you're grateful for. Express that to others. You know, saying thank you, sending thank you notes and cards can be one of the most tremendous ways of having an impact and really taking the focus off of the depression and all the bad things that are going wrong in my life and focusing on what's right. And it can be something as simple as having a box or a jar that you put in little post-it notes or cards that have things that you're grateful for on them, so that when you are depressed and you have that close by, you can look at it and remind yourself of everything that you have to be grateful for. Because no matter how depressed somebody is, they always have something that they can be grateful for, and those things that they can be grateful for start to expand and grow as people start to pull out of depression. So I hope this has been beneficial for you, and if you live in the Austin, Central Texas area and you're struggling with depression and dealing with depression in general, I want you to feel like you can call me. Reach out to me. If you don't call me, call someone else who is a licensed professional. If you don't have that degree of courage or trust, call a trusted friend or family member and let them know how much you're suffering. And they will be more than willing to offer some support of some type. If it's only the number of a crisis helpline or something like that, talking to people is the way out, and reaching out and getting support that you need is the way out. And if I can be of support to you in this area, I encourage you to give me a call and let me know. So thanks so much for viewing, and I wish you the best in mental health and overall health and wellness. Thank you.